There comes a moment in life when you feel an invisible weight pressing against your chest, a subtle, persistent whisper that something is not quite right. You wake up, go through your day, and yet, no matter how hard you try, it feels as though you are repeating the same patterns over and over again. Maybe it's a recurring relationship dynamic, a career that leaves you feeling hollow, or a sense of dissatisfaction that no external achievement seems to fill. If this message finds you, it is because, deep down, you already know you are ready to break free. You are ready to end the cycle that has held you captive for far too long. It's important to understand that this feeling is not a flaw or a failure on your part. It is, in fact, a subtle invitation from your higher self, a quiet nudge from the universe itself, asking you to wake up to a new reality, one where you are no longer defined by old limitations. Think of it as standing at the edge of a door you have always walked past without noticing. Beyond that door lies a version of yourself that is free, aligned, and vibrantly alive, and the first step is simply to recognize that the door exists. Many people spend years, even decades, moving through life in what feels like autopilot. They go through motions, make decisions, and yet the outcome seems strikingly familiar. Another disappointment, another failure, another loop of frustration. This is the cycle, and it is often invisible until you pause long enough to see it clearly. It is not just about external circumstances. It is about the patterns of thought, emotion, and energy that you have unconsciously reinforced. Every moment that feels repetitive or unsatisfying is a signal, a message from your soul that it is time to awaken and to take conscious control of your experience. Now, you might wonder why this cycle persists despite your efforts to change it. The answer is simple yet profound. Change cannot come from force. Real transformation does not happen by trying harder or pushing against the world. It happens when you pause, when you step into stillness, and when you allow yourself to truly see the contrast between where you are and where you want to be. It is in this contrast, the awareness of the old self versus the possibility of the new, that true awakening begins. This is where the seed of transformation is planted, quietly, yet with immense potential. As you sit with this realization, you might notice a mixture of fear and excitement. That is natural. Fear signals the mind clinging to the familiar, to the predictable patterns of the old reality. Excitement signals the soul recognizing its potential for alignment, growth, and expansion. Both emotions are part of the process. You are not broken for feeling fear, nor are you naive for feeling hope. These emotions simply mark the threshold between the life you have been living and the life that is waiting for you, a life that is conscious, empowered, and profoundly aligned with who you truly are. Imagine for a moment that you could step outside of the cycles that have defined your past. Imagine a life where each day feels fresh, where your choices reflect your deepest desires rather than your fears, and where the energy you radiate shapes your reality instead of being shaped by it. This is not a fantasy or an impossible dream. It is the natural state of the soul when it is fully aware and consciously engaged with the quantum field of possibilities. You are being invited to remember that reality is not fixed. It is a reflection of your inner world, waiting for you to take the first conscious step. Ending the cycle begins with awareness, and awareness is a form of love. Love for yourself, for your journey, and for the life you are ready to create. There is a quiet power in simply observing without judgment, in noticing the patterns that no longer serve you, and in choosing to respond differently. This is the moment where the seed of your new self is planted, and even though you may not see the full picture yet, the act of recognition alone begins to shift the energy around you. The universe responds to awareness, and every small acknowledgement of your patterns brings you closer to the reality that has been waiting for you all along. So if this message has found you, take a deep breath and allow yourself to feel it fully. You are ready. You are capable. You are already beginning the journey to end the cycles that no longer serve your highest good. What follows is an exploration, a gentle and profound guide through the process of recognition, release, and conscious creation. By the end of this journey, you will not be the same person who first read these words. You will be someone who has remembered their own power, someone who understands that life is not about repetition but about alignment, and someone who is ready to step fully into the freedom of their own awakened reality. At the heart of every human experience lies a pattern, a cycle that silently governs the way we think, feel, and react. These cycles are not always obvious at first glance. They often wear the disguise of normal life: a repeated argument with a loved one, a job that feels unfulfilling, a sense of longing that never seems to dissipate. You might think that the solution is to change your circumstances, to move to a new place, or to find a new partner, but the truth is deeper than that. The cycles you are experiencing are created from within, and until you recognize them, they will continue to repeat, no matter how much you rearrange the outside world. Recognizing the cycle begins with awareness. It requires a willingness to pause and observe your life as if you were an impartial witness, without judgment or blame. When you do this, patterns start to reveal themselves. Perhaps you notice that certain feelings of fear or inadequacy arise at predictable moments. Maybe you see that every time you attempt to step into your power, self-doubt creeps in and pulls you back. These moments are not coincidences. They are the echo of old programming, deeply embedded beliefs that have been repeated so often that they feel like truth. This is the cycle in action, the unconscious repetition of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that no longer serve your growth. The first step in breaking free is to understand that these patterns are not a reflection of your worth or your capability. They are simply habits of the mind and energy, habits that have been reinforced over time. When we live unconsciously, we feed these patterns without realizing it. Every negative thought, every reaction based on fear, every moment of self-judgment is like adding another layer to the loop. The more we repeat these patterns, the more entrenched they become, until it feels impossible to step outside of them. Yet the very fact that you are reading these words means that your awareness is already stirring. You are beginning to see the edges of the cage that has held you, and that is the essential first step toward liberation. One of the most powerful ways to recognize the cycle is to observe the contrast between your current reality and the reality you secretly long for. This contrast acts as a mirror, showing you not just where you are but also where you could be. It is the space between fear and alignment, between limitation and expansion, that holds the key to transformation. By holding this contrast in your awareness, without judgment or desperation, you create a fertile ground for change. The mind often resists this because it fears the unknown, but the soul feels the pull toward alignment, toward freedom, and toward the life that resonates with your deepest essence. Patterns do not always show themselves in obvious ways. Sometimes they manifest subtly in your thoughts, in the way you speak to yourself, or in the energy you bring to your relationships. You may find yourself repeatedly drawn to situations that feel familiar but unfulfilling, or you may notice recurring doubts and fears that prevent you from stepping fully into your potential. The key is to pay attention to the small signals. Every recurring thought, every repeated emotional reaction, every subtle frustration is a thread in the larger tapestry of your cycle. When you begin to see these threads clearly, you gain the ability to gently unravel them, one by one, without force or self-criticism. Understanding the cycle also involves recognizing its origin. Often, these patterns are rooted in childhood experiences, societal conditioning, or long-held beliefs about who you are and what is possible for you. They may have served a purpose at one time, protecting you from harm or helping you adapt, but they no longer serve your highest good. Awareness of their origin does not mean dwelling on the past or blaming yourself. It simply means acknowledging that these cycles exist and that they can be transformed. You are not bound by history, you are bound only by the patterns you continue to reinforce in the present moment. As you begin to recognize the cycle, you may feel a mixture of relief and resistance. Relief because suddenly things start to make sense. The recurring frustrations, the repeated disappointments, the sense of being stuck. They all have a reason, and knowing that reason is empowering. Resistance because the mind fears change. Breaking a cycle requires stepping into the unknown, questioning beliefs that have felt safe, and opening yourself to new possibilities. Yet it is precisely in that space of discomfort, in that tension between fear and potential, that transformation occurs. The universe often waits for you to reach this edge before it guides you to the next stage of your awakening. One practical way to begin seeing your cycles is to create space for reflection. Journaling, meditation, or simply sitting quietly with your thoughts can reveal patterns that are otherwise invisible. Ask yourself, which situations in my life keep repeating? What emotions show up most often and under what circumstances? Where do I feel trapped, frustrated, or unfulfilled? When you answer these questions honestly, patterns begin to surface naturally, without force. Awareness becomes a form of gentle illumination, shining light on the areas of life where you are ready to grow. Ultimately, recognizing the cycle is about reclaiming your power. It is about understanding that your life is not happening to you, it is a reflection of the energy, beliefs, and choices you carry. By observing the patterns without judgment, you create a space for conscious choice. You begin to see that the same energy that created the cycle can also be used to transform it. The very awareness that reveals the patterns is also the seed of your freedom. From this awareness, you can step into alignment, consciously redirecting your energy toward the reality that resonates with your highest self. And so, as you reflect on your life, you may start to notice the repeating threads that have woven the fabric of your experience. The cycles that once felt invisible now appear in sharper focus. You may even feel a gentle shift, an inner recognition that you are not the prisoner of these patterns, You are the observer, the conscious creator, and the one capable of stepping into a new reality. This is the threshold. It is here, in this recognition, that the first true steps toward breaking the cycle are taken. The moment you acknowledge the patterns, you begin to disentangle yourself from them, opening the door to freedom, alignment, and transformation. Once you have recognized the cycles that have been running your life, the next step is perhaps the most profound. Consciously moving from the old self to the aligned self. This is not about trying harder, forcing change, or adopting superficial habits. It is about a deep, internal recalibration, an awakening to who you truly are and how your energy shapes your reality. The old self clings to fear, doubt, and familiar patterns, while the aligned self moves fluidly in resonance with the life you were always meant to live. The journey between these two selves is both subtle and transformative, and it begins with intention, awareness, and surrender. Transformation is rarely instantaneous. It is a gradual unfolding, like the slow opening of a flower in the early morning light. You may notice small shifts at first, an increase in clarity, a subtle release of tension, a moment of insight that feels both familiar and new. These small shifts are the universe signaling that you are moving in the right direction. The aligned self does not demand perfection. It simply requires attention, presence, and the willingness to step into the unknown. Every time you choose alignment over fear, you are consciously redirecting the energy that once kept you trapped. Visualization is one of the most powerful tools for bridging the gap between your old self and your aligned self. By consciously imagining the reality you desire, you create a vibrational match to that experience. Close your eyes and picture the life you wish to live, not as a distant dream, but as if it is already your present reality. Feel the emotions that arise in that life: joy, freedom, abundance, love, confidence. Notice how your body, your energy, and even your thoughts shift as you immerse yourself in this experience. This is not mere daydreaming. This is quantum creation. By aligning your vibration with your desired reality, you send a clear signal to the universe that you are ready to receive. At the same time, it is crucial to examine and release the beliefs that have been holding you in the old cycle. These are often deeply ingrained, unconscious thoughts about who you are and what you deserve. Perhaps you have believed that success is out of reach, that love is conditional, or that happiness must be earned through struggle. Each limiting belief is a thread in the old pattern, and until these threads are untangled, the cycle will persist. Release does not mean fighting or suppressing. It means acknowledging the belief, understanding its origin, and gently choosing to let it go. With each release, the space for your aligned self to emerge grows wider and clearer. Gratitude is another cornerstone of this shift. When you practice gratitude, you are no longer looking from lack or limitation. You are tuning your energy to abundance and alignment. Gratitude is not simply a list of things to be thankful for. It is a deep, felt experience that you carry within you. When you immerse yourself in this feeling, you begin to notice how your reality begins to respond. Small synchronicities appear, opportunities arise, and even challenges start to feel like lessons rather than obstacles. Gratitude bridges the gap between what is and what can be, grounding you in alignment even as you step into new possibilities. The aligned self also requires conscious emotional management. Emotions are energy in motion, and they have the power to either reinforce old cycles or create new realities. When fear, anger, or doubt arise, rather than suppressing or judging them, observe them as signals. Ask yourself, what does this emotion want me to see? How can I respond from a place of alignment rather than reaction? Over time, this practice strengthens your ability to maintain a high vibrational state, even amidst external challenges. The more consistently you respond from alignment, the more natural the shift becomes. It is equally important to cultivate self-compassion throughout this process. The old self will resist, will cling, and will occasionally pull you back into familiar patterns. You may find yourself slipping into doubt or frustration, wondering if you are failing. This is natural. Transformation is not linear. Every step, every moment of self-awareness, every conscious choice, is progress. Treat yourself as you would a student of life, gently, patiently, and with understanding. Your aligned self is emerging, and the way you treat yourself along the way shapes the vibrational field in which this transformation occurs. Integration of these practices also involves taking inspired action. The aligned self is not passive, it is responsive. It notices opportunities, trusts intuition, and acts from a place of clarity rather than fear. You may feel nudges to reach out to someone, to pursue a creative project, or to make a lifestyle change. These nudges are signals from your higher self, guiding you toward alignment. Inspired action feels different from obligation or struggle. It is effortless, fluid, and in harmony with your inner knowing. Each step you take reinforces the reality of your new self, making the shift tangible in the external world. As you embody the aligned self, you will begin to notice subtle yet profound changes in your relationships and environment. People may respond differently to you, circumstances may shift, and opportunities may appear that were previously invisible. These are not coincidences, they are reflections of the transformation taking place within. The aligned self radiates a frequency that magnetizes experiences, people, and situations that resonate with this new state of being. The contrast between the old self, who felt trapped and reactive, and the aligned self, who moves with ease and clarity, becomes increasingly apparent. Remember that this process is deeply personal. The aligned self is not an ideal created by society, culture, or someone else's expectations. It is your authentic self, fully expressed and free from the constraints of old programming. It is the self that knows it is worthy of abundance, love, joy, and purpose simply by existing. It is the self that trusts the universe, trusts its own intuition, and embraces life with curiosity and reverence. Once you have begun to embody your aligned self, the next essential step is learning how to integrate this transformation into your everyday life. Shifting your inner world is profound, but it only becomes tangible when reflected in the way you live, move, and respond in the world around you. This integration is where the magic of sustained transformation happens. It is where the abstract ideas of alignment, energy, and conscious creation meet the practical reality of relationships, work, and daily habits. Without integration, the shift may feel fleeting, but when you bring it fully into your life, your reality begins to reflect the new frequency you are embodying. Integration starts with conscious awareness in every moment. The aligned self does not compartmentalize spirituality, it flows naturally into all areas of life. Notice how you speak to yourself, the thoughts you allow to linger, and the emotions you habitually carry. Observe your reactions to challenges and setbacks, and ask yourself whether these responses serve your higher self or reinforce old patterns. This is not about perfection, it is about consistent presence. Every time you catch yourself slipping back into old habits or thought patterns, it is an opportunity to gently realign. With practice, these moments of conscious choice become second nature, and your life begins to transform effortlessly. Another crucial aspect of integration is creating rituals and routines that support your alignment. These do not need to be elaborate or time-consuming. Even small daily practices can create profound shifts. Meditation, journaling, breathwork, or simple moments of stillness can anchor your energy, allowing you to reconnect with your aligned self throughout the day. Visualization exercises, where you consciously imagine living from your highest self, reinforce the reality of your transformation. These practices act like bridges between your inner alignment and the outer world, ensuring that your shift is not temporary but deeply rooted in your daily life. Integration also requires observing and recalibrating your environment. The spaces you inhabit, the people you interact with, and the energy you allow into your life all influence your ability to maintain alignment. Surround yourself with people who support your growth, who mirror your highest self rather than feeding fear or limitation. Consider how your physical environment impacts your energy. Cluttered, chaotic spaces often reinforce mental patterns of overwhelm and distraction, while clear, intentional environments support clarity and presence. By consciously curating your surroundings, you create a supportive ecosystem for your transformation, one that reflects and reinforces your aligned state. Consistency is key in living the shift. Transformation is not a single event but a continuous process of choice and realignment. Each day presents opportunities to practice alignment, whether through responding to challenges with calm and clarity, speaking with kindness, or acting from intuition rather than obligation. The small, consistent actions compound over time, creating a ripple effect that touches every area of life. You begin to notice that decisions that once felt difficult now feel natural, that situations that previously triggered fear or frustration are met with patience and insight, and that your relationships and opportunities reflect the energy you are now radiating. One of the most subtle yet powerful aspects of integration is learning to navigate setbacks without losing momentum. Old patterns may still arise, and fear or doubt may attempt to pull you back into familiar loops. These moments are not failures, they are opportunities to practice conscious choice. Observe without judgment, recognize the triggers, and gently return to alignment. Over time, you develop resilience and clarity, understanding that the shift is not about perfection but about consistent, intentional engagement with your inner world. Each return to alignment strengthens your ability to embody your new self fully, deepening the transformation. Integration also involves embracing the concept of inspired action. The aligned self moves with intention, responding to intuition and inner guidance rather than forcing outcomes or overthinking decisions. You begin to notice subtle nudges, synchronicities, and opportunities that guide you naturally toward experiences that support your growth and joy. Inspired action feels effortless because it is rooted in clarity and alignment rather than fear or external pressure. By taking these actions consistently, you begin to see tangible shifts in your life, new opportunities, improved relationships, and a sense of flow that reinforces the reality of your transformation. Another vital element of integration is emotional mastery. Your emotions are a compass, guiding you toward alignment or signaling resistance. By practicing awareness and conscious choice in emotional responses, you maintain a high vibrational state that sustains your shifted reality. This does not mean ignoring negative emotions but rather observing them, understanding their source and choosing how to respond. Over time, emotional mastery becomes an automatic extension of your aligned self, influencing not only your internal experience but also the energy you project into the world. Integration requires patience and self-compassion. Change is gradual and transformation does not happen overnight. There will be days when old patterns feel stronger, when doubt creeps in, or when external circumstances challenge your alignment. Treat these moments with gentleness rather than frustration. Each moment of awareness and realignment, no matter how small, is a victory. Over time, these moments accumulate, solidifying your new reality and reinforcing your connection to the aligned self. Self-compassion ensures that your journey remains sustainable, empowering you to continue moving forward without self-judgment or unnecessary struggle. Finally, living the shift is about embodying the essence of your aligned self in all aspects of life. It is reflected in the way you speak, the choices you make, and the energy you bring to every interaction. As you reflect on the journey we have taken together, it becomes clear that transformation is not a distant dream but a living, breathing reality that is available to you in every moment. You have seen how the cycles of the past, which once held you in repetitive patterns, can be recognized, understood, and ultimately released. You have explored the bridge between the old self and the aligned self, learning that true transformation begins from within, through conscious awareness, intentional thought, and aligned action. Each insight, each practice, each moment of presence has brought you closer to the life you are ready to live. A life defined not by limitation or fear, but by freedom, clarity, and your highest potential. This is the point where awareness meets action. Ending the cycle is not a theoretical concept. It is a practical, lived experience. The practices you have learned, visualization, gratitude, emotional mastery, inspired action, are tools that will continue to serve you long after this moment. Each day, as you integrate these practices into your life, you solidify the shift. You become someone who does not merely react to life but creates it consciously. The old self, with its patterns of fear and repetition, gradually dissolves, replaced by a version of you that moves through the world with purpose, presence, and alignment. It is important to remember that transformation is a continuous unfolding. There will be moments of doubt, moments when old patterns attempt to resurface, and moments when the world around you challenges your alignment. These are not failures, they are opportunities. Each time you notice, each time you choose differently, you strengthen your connection to your aligned self. You are learning to navigate life with awareness and grace, understanding that every challenge is a teacher, every discomfort is a signal, and every choice is a step toward deeper freedom and empowerment. As you step into your next phase, carry with you the understanding that your reality is a mirror of your inner state. When you maintain alignment, when you respond with awareness and intention, the world around you begins to shift in harmony. Relationships deepen, opportunities flow, and experiences that once seemed impossible now appear naturally, reflecting the vibrational frequency of your highest self. You are not bound by what has been. You are empowered to create what is and to do so with clarity, confidence, and joy. Take a moment now to honor yourself. Honor the courage it has taken to look within, to recognize the cycles, and to commit to your own growth. This is not a small feat. It is the work of the soul, the conscious awakening of your true self. Moving forward, remember that each day offers a new opportunity to practice, to expand, and to align. Every thought, every action, every emotion carries the potential to either reinforce the old patterns or to affirm your newly awakened reality. Choose consciously, choose with love, and choose with the understanding that you are fully capable of living the life you have always imagined. The journey does not end here. It is only the beginning of a new chapter, one in which you step fully into your power, your presence, and your potential. Embrace it with curiosity, patience, and trust. The cycles that once defined you have been acknowledged and transformed, and now the path ahead is open, infinite, and waiting for you to walk it consciously. You are ready, you are capable, and you are aligned. The life you desire is not a dream, it is your reality waiting for your conscious participation, and it begins now.